Technical issues, guys. So, don't know what happened. Yeah. Can you guys hear me? So I've been tremendously lucky that our Hangouts on Air has never done this. Very, very lucky because we do live SPM seminar live views. So people in Sabah and Sarawak watch us, but lucky we've never had this issue. So I would totally understand if you have it. I mean, no problem. No.
Is it the laptop?
I tell you what, guys. Since we've probably lost the live audience already. Oops. So is this still the same Hangout?
Yeah.
Okay. How do I see the chat box? Oh, no. Is that one? Oh, there's a few people here. Hey guys. Okay, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? I think I'll go from A to Z. A, B, C, D. You guys hear me? No. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes. No.
Yeah, we can. Okay.
Oh, they can. It's only you. Oh, okay, okay. Let me just put up that screen again. Oh no, somebody said they can't see it.
Yeah, it's right. Can see you and hear you.
Which channel? Ah, okay. Awesome.
Okay, I think you're good to go.
All right. Okay. Third try. You know what they say, third time's a charm, right? So, hi guys, my name is Edmond. I'm from, actually it's confusing now, isn't it? I was from EduNation, I'm from Pizza now. So, just to kind of introduce myself, my name is Edmond. I'm the co-founder of EduNation. And in EduNation, we give free tuition to every Malaysian child. Right now, we have 6,000 videos on all core subjects. And just last year, we had 100,000 kids, students, making use of our videos. So we know we are helping someone, right? And today's topic is, have you ever thought of being an entrepreneur? And although I have to say, I have to admit, I was forced to be an entrepreneur. I actually had no choice. I mean, really, I didn't. And I'll kind of tell you why, that was the case. You see, so I was a civil engineer. So I wasn't always in education. Education was something I ended up in. I was actually a civil engineer. So for 5 years, I practiced as a civil engineer. Specifically, I was a water engineer. So I took river water, I treated it, and it became clean water for everyone to use. So that's what I did. And as an engineer, I saw a lot of, there was a reason why I went to education. Saw a lot of crazy things. I remember that I was sitting in the construction site. One of those containers, right? I was sitting right outside of that, and suddenly you hear this, right? There's this masses of people just running from the site into the hills at the back, running, right? And you see dozens and dozens of them just, and I was wondering, what's going on? 2 minutes later, the police showed up, and it made me wonder, why are we treating our migrant workers, the people who are really building Malaysia, why are we treating them this way? I remember that my boss, right, was telling me, never give the migrant workers a ride in your car because you could be arrested. I was like, what? So I always thought there was something wrong with how we treat our migrant workers. And then as I went along, I saw how there was so much corruption everywhere. I mean, it's just really insane the amount of corruption we had. So when news of corruption coming out of Putrajaya, KL, Penang, when that came out, I just really wasn't surprised. I think it's been going on a long time, and then around that same time, I met this kid. His name's John. And John was 15 years old, 1 month before his PMR. And in that 1 month before PMR, back then I used to go to orphanages to try to tutor kids. And so John is an orphan. He lives in an orphanage, and he needed tutoring. So he was there. I was there. He was asking me some complicated math questions, right? And I tried answering it. I tried explaining it to him. He doesn't understand. So I tried testing his knowledge and asked him simple and simple questions, but John still can't understand. And so 1 month before John's PMR, I asked John, what is half plus half? Just because I really want to know what he knows, because he doesn't seem to be understanding what I'm saying. And then John said, half plus half, 1/4. So he said 1/4. And it was 1 month before his PMR. Right after that, I did something that I was totally not proud of. I basically ran. I never saw John ever again. I never went back to another orphanage ever again. Never volunteered my time in an orphanage again. And I ran. And I think looking back at that incident of why I ran, I think is because I felt very helpless. I felt very hopeless. I was like, John's just one kid. How can I can't even help one kid. One. There's another 20 kids in that orphanage, and not to mention all the other kids that need help, and I obviously couldn't help them. So I was always thinking, how do I help a kid like John? Because really, John has been haunting me ever since I ran, right? How do I help a kid like John? And of course, there were other issues in my head. There was the issues on all the corruption that's happening. There's issues on how we treat our migrant workers. And then I found out from people how terrible public healthcare is, long those waits are in public hospitals. And I was like, so Malaysia has a lot of issues. And so Malaysia has two sides to it. The very beautiful side, the side where, you know, great food, great people, fantastic place. I truly believe Malaysia is the most beautiful country in the world. There's also the other side, the dark side. And I said I was forced to be an entrepreneur because, you know, back then, as I was an engineer, I couldn't find solutions to some of the issues that we had. So I thought, okay, let's get into education, right? So I somehow ended up having enough courage. I left engineering. I joined Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie is a training organization focused on people skills, focused on leadership, so on. So I joined them for a year. A year after that, I became an entrepreneur and I started my own training company. And the reason why I started it is because, I mean, I see all these issues around me, and no one, to me back then, seemed to be fixing them. And I wanted to do something about education, so I started my own training company. In fact, I felt compelled and felt forced to actually do it. But it was a crazy journey because, so I started a training company, but really the fact of the matter is I've never trained a single day in my life. Okay, it's kind of like you starting a accounting firm, accounting company, but you don't know how to count. It's something like you started an English language learning center, but your English not very good. So it's kind of like that. And as much as I was compelled to start my own business, a small business, really I didn't know how to do it. Along the way, I learned the hard way. I really struggled for 3 years, culminating in me actually selling the organization for cash flow to run a project like EduNation. But as I sold that company, the money never came. So a long story that I was a bit more naive when I was younger. So the EduNation idea really came about because of Khan Academy. So I was watching TED videos, and I was still trying to answer the question, how do I help a kid like John, right? How do I help a kid who's motivated, who wants to learn, but doesn't have the resources to do so? So as I was watching TED videos, someone came on stage and spoke about the Khan Academy and how they put thousands of videos online, free for everybody to use. And so right after that video, I stared at the screen for 10 minutes until the screen turned off, and I was still staring at my computer, and I was like, that's it. That's how we're going to help thousands and thousands of kids in Malaysia, almost without us even being there. And for a year and a half, we struggled to start EduNation. Nobody would support us. They all look at me like, okay, so you've never done anything like this. You've never, you know, why should we support you? And so for a year and a half, I became really, actually very broke. Didn't have any more money. Finally, we found the sponsors we needed. Breakthrough Asia College came on board and they said, no, we'll fund this. And so that was the real big break. Now I'm trying to start Kita, and Kita is a school, cutting-edge school. That has no subjects, by the way. And then our students learn all they need to know in math and science and languages and history and so forth by solving real-world problems. And so everyday kids are solving problems and solving real-world issues rather than learning science for learning science or learning maths for learning maths. You know, they're actually solving real-world issues. So I'm trying to start Kita at this very moment. Now, so have you ever thought of being an entrepreneur? Man, I was almost forced into it because I saw that Malaysia had so many issues and not enough people actually working on it. And back then I couldn't find startups or organizations that were working in the areas of education that I wanted to. So I was forced to start up EduNation, almost. And so I know I've learned a few things along the way. One of the things I've learned is, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a real good reason for it. And I say this because, wow, I mean, you know, I can't say I've gone through hell. I can't say that because I don't know what hell really is. But it's not exactly easy. It required, I mean, there are days of me looking at my bank account and I was like, I'm not going to make it this month. I mean, there were times that when I was running my training organization, that I didn't have enough money for payroll at the end of the month. And it was 2 weeks away. I didn't know when my next when my next training contract would come from. And I'd lie awake in bed wondering, I can't pay my staff. And somehow, miraculously, and this happened 3 times in a period of 3 years, miraculously in the last week, someone calls me and says, you know, can you do a training for us? And, 3 days, 15,000 ringgit. I was like, yeah, great. And if you pay me in advance, I will give you a discount, right? And that's how 3 times in 3 years, we came this close in not meeting payroll, really not having the money to survive. And so, look, if you've ever wondered about being an entrepreneur, if you ever thought about being an entrepreneur, I will tell you this. Money as a motivator, I mean, your dreams of making a lot of money is not enough. Here's why. Say, okay, so let's say you're in KLCC, right? The Twin Towers. You're standing on Tower A, right? And you're a mother, and you have a child, and you're standing on Tower A, and your child is in Tower B, right? On the other tower, at the tip of the other tower, and your child's in trouble. And the only way to save this child is to cross this plank from Tower A to Tower B. So there's this plank. Your mother and your child is in trouble in Tower B. It's raining, the wind is loud, the wind is fast. And look, if you're a mother, you would have no doubt in crossing these planks to save your child that's in Tower B. Now, let's just replace this scenario with a bag of money. Say you're in Tower A, right? And a bag of $1 million is in Tower B. And you know by crossing this plank, you'll actually lose your life. And you could lose your life. Would you actually do it? Most people will go, it's just a bag of money, right? No big deal. And so you wouldn't risk your life for it. So really, money as a motivator isn't enough. Making a lot of money isn't going to cut it. You have to have a far deeper reason for actually wanting to do it. I think the only reason why I endured all this pain was because I think if we didn't make Malaysia a better place, if we didn't try to help our fellow Malaysians, I think I would get to the end of my life and be filled with regrets. And I didn't want to be filled with regrets at the end of my life. And that was I think the biggest motivator for me to actually get started and to continue down this road. So what I've learned along the way, if you've ever thought of being an entrepreneur, is that money is not big enough as a motivator. Find a deeper reason. In my case, it's a social reason, an education reason. For you, it may be something else, right? The second thing I've learned is that you need to get powerful up here. And what I mean by that is that you will have a lot of challenges thrown your way. And for you to actually weather these challenges, you have to have a lot of personal power. You have to have the tools to be able to deal with self-doubt, negativity, people telling you you're crazy, your parents telling you this is insane, your brother not having any belief in you. So you have to be able to weather all this. And the only way you can do it is by having a lot of personal power, a very strong sense of self-identity. And you can learn this from books, honestly. Anything from Anthony Robbins would be able to teach you that. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is money as a motivator is not big enough. Find another reason. Second reason is personal power. You have to gain that to be able to weather all these challenges. The third thing I think people don't do enough of is to think really big. Look, I was never a good student, right? Going to school, I was not an A student. I was very jealous of those people. People can read a history book once and get an A. I read a history book 10 times and get a C, right? So I'm not brilliant in any way or form. So there's nothing. What I'm trying to say is there's nothing special about me, right? But yet, you know, we've proven with EduNation that you can actually make your world a better place. I mean, we helped 100,000 students last year. These students, this year we're looking at helping 160,000 students. And I almost can't illustrate this enough. There's nothing. I mean, my IQ is average. My results in school were distinctly average. In fact, I graduated as a civil engineer from Adelaide University with a CGPA of 2.1. And for those of you who understand CGPAs, CGPA of 4 means you got perfect score. CGPA of 2 means you barely pass. I got a 2.1, right? So there's really nothing special. But yet, you know, I think we've proven that, look, we can if we want to. You can if you want to absolutely change the world around you. You can make Malaysia a better place. You can change the fate of your family. Think big, and I think there's not enough of us doing that. So item number 3 really is think big. I think we underestimate ourselves. I think you underestimate yourself and how much you can achieve. So yeah, I think that's it. That's it for me. You know, if there's any questions, I think I'll take it. So if you ever thought of being an entrepreneur, I think you should, because Malaysia needs more people like you. Any questions? Maybe there isn't. Oh, who's CC? Actually, I want to answer this. CC, you asked, as an entrepreneur, you never know when or where your next paycheck is coming from. So that's something I've learned. There's something you can do when you actually get investment money. You can actually pay yourself a salary, and so that's the bonus, right? If you have investors coming in, you can actually pay yourself a salary, and that's, I think, one way of I think not risking too much. Another question: did I ever feel like giving up? Yeah, all the time. CC, all the time. I feel like giving up all the time. I wouldn't say every hour, every day, but that thought comes to my head once in a while, a few times a year, I think, at least. You know what stops me from giving up? I think it's that thought that where I was going to grow old, I'm going to be lying on my deathbed, and I've looked back at my life and I didn't do anything. I didn't make the world a better place. I didn't do anything. And so I think that was my personal biggest fear. And honestly, that fear was so big, it was a lot more powerful than my fear of going broke. Busy Boy said, what's next for you since you've moved to EduNation? Oh, I'm doing KITA, the cutting edge school. What do I do to persevere? Actually, that's a very good question, CC. You see, over the years, I've built a toolbox of really tips and tricks. I'll give you an example, right? So I read this book that says, look, when you feel sad, you smile. And what it's supposed to do is when you smile, you can't actually feel sad. And back then, this was like what, 2005, something like that. And when I read that statement, if you feel sad, you smile, I was like, are you kidding me? What rubbish is this? And I threw that book away. A few years later, I was having issues with my then girlfriend, right? And you know how relationships can make you very happy, can also make you very sad. So I was driving down this highway, Jalan Tun Razak, into KL, and you know, I was feeling really down because I was having relationship issues. So I was starting to cry on the wheel. So I was driving the car and I was like, starting to cry. It was raining. It was a dreary day, and somehow something happened, and I remember what the book said. And the book said, when you feel sad, you smile. It's like, what the hell? But because I was so desperate, I tried it. So I was driving down Jalan Tun Razak. It was raining. I was feeling really down. I was, you know, and I started to smile. And so, if you saw a crazy person many years ago driving down Jalan Tun Razak, crying and smiling at the same time, yeah, that's me. So something interesting happened. I about a minute into smiling, I started feeling better. Thoughts suddenly came into my head that said, you know what? Everything's going to be all right. But 2 minutes later, actually, the tears dried up. I actually stopped crying. And I felt better about myself. And so it's crazy, right? That how rather than the mind controlling the body could also control the mind. And that's a tool I have in my toolbox. There are many, many other tools. I mean, I have a toolbox really full of these tricks that would change our emotional well-being, change how we think, change how we feel at the moment. And having this toolbox is extremely powerful in helping you to, to have personal power. Oh, can I share this toolbox of tips? Oh, wow. Sorry, guys, too many. I'll probably write an article for FutureLab. Nikita's going, yes. How can I help you get involved with Kita? CC, well, in the first place, I don't know who you are, CC, so maybe you can reach out to me on FutureLab, and then we can kind of talk about that. Another question. David Paula Hazel. What advice would you give to someone who has a full-time job and wants to move to being an entrepreneur? So here's the interesting thing is, David, you could be an entrepreneur. In other words, you could have investors, but you could also pay yourself a salary. So what that actually means is that you are starting your own company, but yet drawing a salary, which means you are having another full-time job, but you are an entrepreneur. So it kind of takes away that fear and that risk of being an entrepreneur. Yes, CC, I will share an article on FutureLab. Thank you. All right, I think I'll take one or two more questions. If not, I think we'll leave it as that. So I'll share some articles on FutureLab, and I'm sure the guys at FutureLab will share those out. I've had an awesome session. We should give a clap to Frank and Nikita. I know they can't hear you because we had technical issues just now with the mic and the video and stuff, but they've solved it like a champion. So, okay, guys, and that's it from me. All the best. Be an entrepreneur, and really, please make Malaysia a better place. Thank you. Okay.